Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today I have a very special guest, Miss Susan Wright, wife of the late Congressman, Mr. Ron Wright, and current candidate for Texas Congressional 6th District of Texas. Thank you so much for coming on, ma'am. I wanted you on, and I'm so glad that you were able to fit me in. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be on here, and I'm sorry it took so long. Thank you for your patience working with our schedule. I'm happy to do this.
Thank you so much. So I'll get into it. I wanted to ask you fundamentals. Okay. What is the role of government in the lives of the citizens?
Well, for me, the role of government is exactly what the Constitution says. The government should be closest to the people, to be the most responsive to the people, so that the people have the most access to it. So that's a really long way of saying that I believe in local control. It works best. You know what's best for your family, and you know what works best in your daily life, in your business, in your schools. So the less federal government we have, the more local government we have, the better. But the government should serve the people at the direction of the people. So that's the role of the government. And I probably stepped a little bit over the line and talked about the scope of it as well.
Oh no, that's fine. I welcome that because that gives the people of Ellis County a little more insight into your fundamentals of what you believe. Now let's go into the First Amendment. What are your thoughts on the First Amendment?
Well, I believe very strongly that we have to have the ability to say what we want to say in the public square. And I mean, I don't think we should say things that deliberately offend people, but we should have a public square that is open to competing ideas, right? I mean, that's how our founding fathers got their ideas across. That's how they learned. That's how they all learned that they wanted to have their own nation, what was important to them and what they wanted it to look like and what they wanted for a form of government was the conversations and the discourse in the public square. And there were competing ideas. What we ended up with was not what everybody's first impression or first idea was. So the First Amendment, our freedom of speech is imperative. It is a bedrock. It's the reason it's the First Amendment. We have to have the right to say what we think, to put our ideas out there, to debate them in the public square, and have them open to scrutiny from other people. So I absolutely will do everything in my power to protect it, to speak out for it, and to fight for everyone's right to say what they believe they should say.
Firearms have been in the news a lot. The current administration would like to tighten up gun laws. I want to know your thoughts on the Second Amendment and guns in general.
Well, the Second Amendment says what it says, it means what it means, and it doesn't say what it doesn't say. We don't have the right to abridge anyone's right or use of firearms. The Second Amendment guarantees us the right to bear arms. I support that 100%. I don't support any restrictions. I don't support uh, red flag laws. I don't support anything like that. We've already got background checks. I would argue that's even beyond what the Constitution says, but we don't need to do anything else on gun control or regulation.
Okay, I'll step away from fundamentals. Let's talk about the budget. They're looking at spending something like $4.5 trillion more on an infrastructure plan, as they call it. I wanted your thoughts on that because we are in debt. We're a lot in debt, and I wanted you to kind of touch on our indebtedness and about that infrastructure bill and how you would.
Well, and how I would vote no on this bill. There's a lot of good things in that bill. There's a lot of infrastructure that's been neglected for decades. It really needs to be addressed. But that's really a failing of Congress in general to not have put together a comprehensive bill over several Congresses. So we can lay that at the feet of the collective Congress. But the answer to it is not to throw everything we can possibly imagine into some huge bill to spend trillions with a T of dollars that we don't have. It's reckless. It's reckless. And what it does is add to a debt that already is unsustainable. And I would argue, and a number of economists and defense people have argued, that it jeopardizes our national security. Look, we have a level of debt that we can't pay. We have to have a bigger conversation as a nation of how we want to address this. And it's going to take a political will. It's going to take a political will to cut some spending. We're spending money we don't have. We're spending not even my grandchildren's money, my great grandchildren's money. We have to get back to responsible governance. We have to get back to a regular order where we pass a budget, where all members put in their request based on what their constituents and districts' needs are, and it's debated at the committee level. Each of the committees for the different pieces of the budget come together. They put together a recommended budget. It goes to the entire House for passage, goes to the Senate. Same thing happens over there. Reconciliation happens for any differences, goes to the president for signature. That is the way a responsible government behaves. We have to get back to that. We absolutely have to get back to that. I'm looking forward to Republicans taking the House in 2022, and I'm looking forward to Republicans leading responsibly and returning to a regular order, including a plan to reduce the debt. And I don't know what that is yet. I'm looking forward to getting up there and looking at a number of plans that are already on the table, seeing which one looks the best and bringing that home. I want your thoughts. I want the people's thoughts. It's your money. It's your money. I just want to represent you and be your voice at the table. And I want you to tell me, here are the options we have. If you've got a better idea, I'm open to it. If you want one of these, let me know and I'll go up there and fight for it. But look, we've got to address that. We've just got to address it, and I'm ready to do it.
You mentioned defense, so let's talk about that. Can you tell me your thoughts on the role of our defense? What would you like to see as far as defense spending? And then we could go into veterans after that.
Well, as far as defense spending, we need to spend what we need to spend to shore up and strengthen our military. We've historically been the strongest military in the world. We need to continue that. The world is safer with a strong United States leading. We have to be available and ready to support our allies, and we mostly have to be able to defend ourselves. The rest of the world watches us. They take their cues from us, and if we're weak, they see that, and they advance on some of our allies. We see that in the Middle East. We see that in Africa, and we see China's aggression towards Taiwan and Japan. So there is a perceived weakness, or at least an unwillingness to push back. And so I would fully fund the military for those things. What was the second part of that question?
The second part I wanted to follow up on was that as far as the veterans are concerned, as a vet, it appalls me, and it really hurts to know that 22 of my brothers and sisters a day commit suicide, and that there's issues with the Veterans Affairs with opioid use or prescription medications that the VA gave at the beginning when we started coming back from Iraq. So I wanted to kind of just gauge your thoughts on the VA and what you'd like to see.
The VA is, there's some parts that they do really well. Ron's dad used the VA for his primary health care for a long time, and until he started having chronic troubles, they really did a good job for him. But there are many, many of our vets who don't get the help that they need. I know of a few vets right now that have been waiting for months for surgery that can't get it, and they're in pain. They need to have their surgery, and they're so backlogged that they can't get to them. That's not acceptable. You know, our men and women in our military took an oath to defend us, and they've done it. You've done it. And we owe a debt. We made promises, and I don't believe we've really lived up to those promises. So I recognize that this is a much bigger problem than I can give you an answer to in just a 30-second soundbite. But what I will commit to you is this: we need to do whatever it takes, however much it costs, to give our vets 100% of their health care. We need to address everything that they need on a short wait, not a long wait. And we need to do it the most efficient way possible. I know there's plans out there to essentially offer vouchers so that you go to your own private health care to get whatever it is you need, and the VA pays it almost like a secondary insurance. I have no idea how far along that is, but whatever plan we come up with needs to be reasonable, it needs to be responsive, and it needs to be very high quality. I share your sadness and your concern about what is happening to our vets with the opioids. We've got so many mental health situations that need counseling that we don't have the resources to provide to our vets. That's unacceptable. And then beyond the healthcare, the homelessness and poverty rate among our vets is just one of the most appalling things that we have in this country. You know, we're the United States. I believe in the people of the United States. I always have, and I always will. We can do better than this. And I trust the people. If we start talking and having these conversations at home, not just me and our district, but in every district throughout the country, I'm convinced we can get enough information, have enough ideas, and come up with a better solution than we have right now and get these things taken care of.
Now, this will be one of those few times where I editorialize. When it comes to veterans, it is, obviously a near and dear to my heart because I am a vet. But I, I, uh, I definitely I saw the change from when my father served in Vietnam and some of the things he told me that happened to him when he got back, to my service and how they treated me. But as long
Mhm.
as there's 22 a day killing themselves, and there's veterans out there not getting treated and they're homeless in this beautiful, wonderful country that we serve, that's got to change. As long as
Right.
that's there, there's definitely a problem. So I appreciate you
Mhm.
addressing that. So let's go into another. Let's go into a definite security issue that we have, and that is the southern border. There's estimates of over 1 million people that they've caught because I mean they're catching trucks, they're finding trucks with um, uh, illegal immigrants inside of them, and we don't know who's coming in. We don't know what's going on, and it seems to be just growing and growing and growing with the amount of people to get. Somewhere I heard that there was estimate of uh, the amount of people in Waco every single day, and that's ridiculous. So, what are
Mhm.
your thoughts on that? And what would be legislation, let's say, that you would sponsor for that?
So I know you've heard me say this before, but that is one of the most irresponsible things that any person could possibly do is what this administration did on some of its first acts was to, with executive order, open our southern border, immediately stop building the wall at the southern border, and immediately rescind all of the work that President Trump and his administration did to secure the stay in Mexico policy for all of the migrants coming in from Central America and wherever else they're coming from. That has now created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, certainly in my memory, and it's self-imposed. And so now the United States, as if we don't already have a number of problems of our own, a number of challenges that we're having to face this, and these people who have come here seeking refuge from bad situations at home, wherever they've come from, now find themselves in arguably a worse situation. One of the first things that I think should be done is a return to President Trump's stay in Mexico policy, enforcing the laws that we have on the books today, and to continue building the wall at the southern border. Look, it works. It absolutely works. We know it works. It was proven to have worked. And just a signal before President Biden even took office that he was going to undo all of President Trump's strengths at the southern border was enough for the caravans to begin again and come here. So those are some of the things I would do. As far as legislation I would sponsor, I will tell you there's already a number of measures, a number of bills on the table that have been introduced. One of them, Representative Andy Biggs, has got I think it's HR 58. It fully funds and resumes building the wall. And then there's a number of others that have different combinations of reinstating the Trump policies at the southern border. So I'm not sure I'd have to introduce anything. I think I could just sign on to what's there. But if there's something that's not done that President Trump had done at the southern border, I would absolutely sponsor that. If I need to sponsor a bill that says we have to return to the laws we have on the books, enforce the laws on the books all the time, every time, I'm happy to sponsor that bill too. To me, that's just a common sense thing to do. Look, I really want to go to Washington to take common sense Texas values to Washington. We know they work here. We know they work in our families. And I want to take that to Washington so that we can get things working nationally the way they work here at home.
I wanted to cover just two more things before I get you off and we wrap up. One of them is something that I asked Ron when I first met him, and I asked him about criminal justice reform.
Hmm.
We have a lot of people incarcerated, and you know, and there are things that maybe Republicans could lead on, and I think criminal justice reform can be a positive thing. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I support, one of the things President Trump did early, and it was very bipartisan, was criminal justice reform. He got a lot of pushback on that, but he did it, and it was successful. I'm a big supporter of criminal justice reform. I think that there's a lot of shortcuts that get taken. I'd like to see some of those revisited in different courts. I think that we have a lot of cases where we have evidence that can be tested again. Today we have, what is the right word? We have better processes and better results. We have, for women, we have rape kits that sit years without going tested. And in some cases, those actually exonerate people who've taken plea deals or been convicted of crime. So I really am a big fan of criminal justice reform. I think President Trump made some meaningful first steps. I think there's more steps to be had and to be taken. And I would absolutely welcome the opportunity to be at the table to work on some of those.
Thank you so much. So this is the point in the show where you talk to the voters of Ellis County. I love this county, and this is why I do the show, to be informative. And I'd like for you to talk to them directly and give them your message.
Well, my message is fairly simple. It's I've got 30 years, more than 30 years, but I've devoted most of my adult life to the people of the 6th District in some form or another. I love the people. I love the cities. I love everything about it. Our family's here, and it's home. Professionally, politically, and in civic engagement, whether it's volunteers for communities, community organizations, or charitable organizations, I'm committed to improving and addressing whatever is happening in our communities, whether it's in school or it's in government or it's in social areas or civic areas. I've got over 30 years experience in the Republican Party. Right now I'm on the board for the national, or for the state party for the Republican Party. In my 3rd term, I'm very well versed in a lot of different policies. I enjoy working on policies, and I enjoy working on it with other people to put something together in the form of resolutions or platforms, and I'm happy to work on it in legislation. This is actually the first legislative session in Austin that I haven't been down working on bills. Professionally, I spent over 26 and a half years in contract oversight and administration, working with people training air traffic controllers. I love the work. We worked over 28 facilities in 4 states, and I had a great career doing that. So professional management and private sector business is familiar to me. Federal contracting is familiar to me. And I want to take that experience to Washington for you. I want to take my people experience to Washington to help you. I'm district director for a state representative, my 2nd state rep. First one retired, and I came to work for this one. I love working with people. I love putting people together with the services and the agencies and opportunities that are their government to serve them. And again, I can be very valuable to do that in Washington, and I want to help in that area as well. As far as specific issues to Ellis County, I'm 100% against the high-speed rail. I look forward to having an office in Ellis County to be as responsive as I possibly can. I've worked, because I've been in the Republican Party for a long time, I'm 100% committed to full election integrity. I've been an elections judge for over 20 years until Ron was on the ballot every time. So I'm probably going to be the only member of Congress that's ever been an elections judge. So I'll be able to speak from a very different perspective there. So those are just some of the main things that I'm interested in, that I'm very serious about. I believe in people. I said that earlier in this broadcast. I believe in Ellis County. I believe in the people of Texas and the 6th District. And I trust your judgment. So I want to go to work for you. I want to listen to you, be responsive to you, and be your voice in Washington.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking to the voters of Ellis County. I am very, very grateful that you came on. I had both candidates there, Ellis County, and now you have both their perspectives. And early voting is going on now, so make sure you get out and vote. It is one of the most special and beautiful things we have in this country, is to be able to vote. And there's a lot of people that died for that right. So go out there and vote for one of the two candidates. And ma'am, again, thank you so much for coming on, and I really appreciate you. Good luck, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too.
Bye-bye, Susan.